Good morning everyone, it's me Samuel Taylor Ackroyd and good morning from Edinburgh Airport in Scotland. Today I am going to be flying with Ryanair over to Dublin in Southern Ireland on board one of their Boeing 737-800s. Now, as is usually the case, I have just my rucksack with me and no luggage to check in, meaning that I can just head straight inside and head straight to security, which is what I'm going to do now. It's just before 4 o'clock in the morning, so people are starting to arrive for all of the first wave flights, which is what I'm travelling on this morning over to Dublin, and is the first Ryanair flight of the day between Edinburgh and Dublin. Anyway, I'm going to get inside and head through security. Alright, so that's me airside, and security was very quick and smooth this morning, apart from a little something that happened as I was entering security, which I will tell you about when I get to the main part of the departure lounge. Because it's before 4 o'clock in the morning, the duty-free store isn't open yet, so I have to walk through a corridor that normally only staff use. Thank you. Normally only staff use to get to the departure lounge. Alright, so now that I'm in the main part of the departure lounge, let me tell you what happened as I was entering security. Obviously I took a shot of the way through security, and because of that, one of the staff members who was working in security actually shouted at me. She was like, excuse me, you cannot film in here. She was nice about it. Even though she was shouting, obviously she had to shout across just so that way, you know, I could hear her. But she didn't force me to delete my footage or anything. She just said, you know, there's a sign right there that says, you know, you can't film in here. Obviously, I wasn't intending on filming inside security, because obviously that's not allowed. It was just me sort of going through the start of security. I'm not complaining or anything, because obviously, you know, she was just being cautious and just making sure that I wasn't doing anything that I shouldn't have been. Obviously, you know, maybe I could have just not filmed that little segment of me walking into security. Fair enough. So I'll go my bad on that part, and fair play to her for doing her job. But anyway, what time is it just now? It's just after 4:15. Sorry, no, it's just after 4:45 in the morning, which means that things here in the departure lounge are going to start opening up in the next 15 minutes or so. And for those who have seen the last few trip reports that I've made, you would have seen that I usually go for a Wetherspoon's breakfast when travelling on a first wave flight here at Edinburgh Airport. And today is no exception to that. I will be having a Wetherspoon's breakfast this morning. Alright, so that's me all filled up with my Wetherspoon's breakfast. I ended up having my usual, which is a traditional breakfast with an extra 2 pieces of black pudding and a pint of orange juice, and as is usually the case at this time of the morning, it was almost filled to capacity with a few empty seats scattered around. Now then, there's roughly 15 more minutes until the boarding process of my flight to Dublin should start, and it's in the gate 1, 2, 3 area of the airport. So I'm just going to head over there now and wait for the boarding process of the flight to begin. Today we would be boarding from gate 1K, and I would be the first passenger in the non-priority queue. The boarding process was quick and smooth, and we made our way to the aircraft. The aircraft that would be flying me over to Dublin this morning would be this Boeing 737-800, registered as Echo India-Echo Mike Foxtrot, which had just turned 15 years old and performed its first flight on April 14th, 2010, and was then delivered to Ryanair on April 29th, 2010. Echo Mike Foxtrot is equipped with the older Ryanair seats, which many people say they prefer, but I find both the older and newer seats just as comfortable as each other, but that's just my opinion. My seat on this flight this morning would be 5F, which has a great view of the right side engine. Once the final few bags were loaded onto the plane, it was time to push back and get ready for our departure. And for the first time in my life, my flight would have an intersection takeoff, as we would line up on runway 06 via taxiway Bravo instead of taxiway Alpha, which leads to the threshold of runway 06. Now enjoy our departure out of Edinburgh. We departed Edinburgh bang on time, and it was great that we did, as I managed to get a clip of the sun rising, which is always a nice thing to see. Now for a quick look at the seat. The legroom is good enough for a short flight like this one, and much more generous than on Ryanair's MAX aircraft. Just remember that if you have a bag under the seat in front of you, pull it out of the seat in front of you after takeoff for a little bit more legroom like I have done. The tray table on Ryanair's older seats is a great size and is nice and sturdy. Since there aren't any seat back pockets on any Ryanair aircraft, the safety cards are printed onto the back of the seats. Above your head are the air vents, reading lights, and the call bells to get the crew's attention. A little look at one of the 3 toilets on the 737-800. They are certainly bigger than the ones on the newer 737 MAX aircraft. This toilet was clean, which was great, and it also had a baby changing table. The flight was almost filled to capacity with just a few empty seats scattered around, including the one next to me, which is always a bonus. On this flight, the crew distributed buy on board menus, which are very hit and miss on Ryanair. Sometimes they get handed out and other times they don't. When they don't get handed out, you will have to scan a QR code at the top of the safety cards, which takes you to the buy on board menu on the Ryanair app. So make sure you have the app downloaded before you travel. There is a very good selection of food and drinks on offer, as well as meal deals. However, since the flight was less than an hour long, I didn't bother buying anything. The window certainly isn't the cleanest, as you can tell from this shot, and in certain lighting conditions I struggle to get decent shots of the engine. However, luckily that didn't happen during takeoff or landing, so I was able to get decent takeoff and landing footage. It wasn't long before we were already beginning our descent into Dublin, and we ended up arriving roughly 15 minutes early at approximately 6:50 in the morning. So here is the arrival into Dublin Airport on runway 10 right. Once again, I had another great flight with Ryanair. The crew on this flight were absolutely fantastic, as they were very friendly and attentive, and I personally think that the seats on Ryanair offer a reasonable level of comfort, considering that this is a low-cost carrier. The aircraft was clean at both the seat and the bathroom, apart from the window at my seat of course, and the price was also brilliant. I paid £17.67 for the basic fare, plus an extra £13.50 to select seat 5F, which is a total of £31.17, which is fantastic value for money. I would always recommend flying with Ryanair if the prices are as low as that. Even if your experience isn't the most pleasant, at such a low price you shouldn't expect much. I never expect much out of a Ryanair flight, just as long as they get me from A to B, and it's also just a nice cheap way for an av geek like myself to fly on a widely popular aircraft. Also, a massive thanks to the crew for allowing me a flight deck visit when we arrived on stand.
fly a lot then?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Ah, cool.
Actually on a day trip here just to do some plane spotting, and then I'll be flying back to Edinburgh.
Oh, nice.
On the Max.
Oh, are you on the
later
group? Are you on the plane spotting group?
Thanks so much for watching this video, and thank you Ryanair for yet another great flight. Stay tuned for the videos for my return flight later that day on the Boeing 737 MAX 8-200. Until then, stay safe and see you all in the next video.